close your eyes, take a slow, deep, relaxing breath, and let the weight of your day gently drift away. Tonight, we step back 2,000 years in time, leaving behind the modern world to visit the cold, tranquil shores of the ancient Baltic coast. It is late autumn, in the lands that would one day be known as Prussia, Poland, and Scandinavia. The pine forests grow tall and thick, stretching right down to the edge of the dark, quiet sea. The air is crisp and pure, fresh with the deep, rich scent of damp earth, fallen pine needles, and salt spray. Here, along these misty beaches, nature has spent millions of years crafting a rare and golden treasure: amber. Long before iron and steel, long before roads connected the distant nations of Europe, local gatherers walked these silent beaches at dawn. After a night of gentle sea swells, pieces of fossilized tree resin, washed up from ancient submerged forests deep beneath the waves, lay nestled softly in the dark seaweed. The gatherers move slowly along the tide line, carrying small woven baskets made of willow reeds. They lift each stone with quiet care. To the touch, amber is unlike cold granite or river flint. It is lightweight, surprisingly warm, and smooth as river silk. Held up to the early morning light, the stones glow with deep, comforting shades of honey, dark molasses, and warm amber gold. The waves lapped steadily against the shore, a slow, rhythmic pulse that has echoed across these sands for uncounted centuries. Each piece of amber resting in the gatherer's baskets contains a fragment of deep time, trees that stood under ancient suns 40 million years ago, dropping their sticky resin into prehistoric soil. Slowly, the resin fossilized, turning to stone while retaining the clear golden radiance of captured sunlight. The morning mist hangs low over the water, softening the shapes of distant trees and grey stone bluffs. There is no hurry along these beaches. The gatherers move with deliberate, tranquil steps, knowing the sea will yield its gifts when the tide is right. An older woman walks near the front of the line. She has walked this same stretch of sand every autumn for as long as anyone in the village can remember. Her eyes know exactly where the darker weed gathers thickest, where the amber tends to settle after a long night of wind. Beside her, a young boy carries the smallest basket. He is still learning the patience this work requires. How to let his eyes soften rather than search too hard. How the amber seems to appear more easily to a calm gaze than to an eager one. She shows him how to roll a piece gently between his fingers. How a true piece of amber warms quickly against the skin, while a plain stone stays cold and indifferent. He nods slowly, half listening, half lost in the sound of the surf rolling in, a sound so constant, so unhurried, that it seems to slow his own small heartbeat to match its rhythm. Further down the beach, driftwood lies half buried in the sand, silvered by salt and years of weather, and here and there, tangled in dark ribbons of kelp, more amber waits, patient as stone, unbothered by time. They wrap the finest stones in soft unspun wool, preserving their polished surfaces from scratches as they return to their village of timber and thatch. Inside the village homes, hearth fires burn low, emitting small wisps of wood smoke that mingle with the forest air. Here, the amber is cleaned and sorted by hand, categorized by clarity, color, and size. Some pieces are clear as distilled river water. Others carry tiny ancient inclusions, a petrified pine needle, a speck of moss, or a bubble of air trapped millions of years ago. An elder holds one such piece up to the firelight. Inside it, barely visible, the delicate silhouette of an insect that lived and died long before the first human ever walked these shores. No one speaks for a moment. There is something quieting about holding 40 million years in the palm of one hand. Outside, the wind moves gently through the pines, a long, low breath passing over the whole sleeping coastline. And somewhere beneath it, the sea continues its slow work, turning stone and driftwood, patient as ever. The villagers store the sorted amber in small carved boxes, lined with the same soft wool, ready for the journey. Ready for the journey that will carry it far beyond anything they will ever see themselves. These stones will not remain in the quiet northern settlements. They are preparing to begin a long, peaceful journey southward across the vast expanse of Europe. By now, the tide has fully drawn back, leaving long, glistening flats of packed sand stretching out toward the grey horizon. Small pools of seawater catch the pale light, scattered across the shore like fallen coin. Gulls drift low over the flats, calling to one another in slow, unhurried arcs. Their voices carried off almost as soon as they are made, swallowed by the wide open air above the water. Above Voito's glandal air of Hervedsteris on the few mooning Amalect. The gatherers turn back toward the dunes now, their baskets a little heavier than before. Their footprints, the only mark on the whole wide beach, already beginning to soften at the edges as the wind moves the fine sand to fill them in. The boy walks a little ahead this time, proud of the 2 small pieces he found on his own. He holds them loosely in his palm, glancing down every few steps, just to be sure they are still there, still real, still warm. Above the dunes, the village comes into view. Low roof lines of thatch and timber, thin curls of smoke rising straight up in the still morning air. Somewhere inside, someone is already stirring the coals of last night's fire back to life. The season is turning. The leaves of the birches along the tree line have gone the color of old parchment, and each gust of wind sends a few more spiraling down onto the path. Soon the frost will come, and the gathering season will end for another year. My bot brocht down beleading entered the end, waiting hild for moon how was the warmed, prayed in a witch-liked ezekerd herb. But for now, there is only this, the walk home, the weight of amber in a woven basket, and the steady, patient sound of the sea fading slowly behind them. Merchant caravans, traveling on foot and by wooden river barge, prepare to carry the golden stone thousands of miles across the continent. They follow the natural paths carved by ancient rivers, winding along the Vistula, the Oder, and down through the quiet, fertile valleys of the Danube. The river barges are broad and sturdy, crafted from heavy oak planks, sealed with tree pitch and pine tar. They float effortlessly on the calm river currents, carrying sacks of linen, barrels of salt, and leather pouches packed tightly with Baltic amber. The journey is unhurried. The river barges drift with the steady, natural flow of the water, moving past quiet oak forests, open meadows, and sleep-filled hills. Day after day, the rhythm of the journey remains unchanged. The gentle splash of wood oars against water, the soft rustle of wind through the river reeds, and the slow passage of time. The lead merchant, a quiet man who has made this crossing many times before, rarely speaks unless it matters. He watches the water more than the shore, reading its color and its calm the way a farmer reads the sky. Behind his barge, two more follow in a loose, easy line, their crews trading nothing more than the occasional nod, content in the long, comfortable silence that river travel allows. By late morning, low cloud drifts over the valley. A soft rain begins to fall. Not hard, only a fine grey mist that dimples the surface of the river and hushes every sound but itself. The travelers do not hurry to shelter. Atanom said. They simply raise their hoods and let the rain pass over them, watching the drops ripple outward and vanish, one circle folding into the next. By afternoon, the sky clears again. Pale light spreads slowly across the wet fields, and the world seems freshly washed, quieter than before. As evening approaches, along the riverbank, the merchants tie their barges to sturdy wooden posts or willow trunks growing near the water's edge. Small campfires are built on the gravel shores, casting a warm, flickering orange light across the calm water. The travelers prepare simple meals of barley porridge, dried fish, and spring water. Sitting together in comfortable, quiet companionship under the darkening sky. Above them, the constellations of the northern hemisphere begin to appear, silent and bright against the deep blue canvas of space. The North Star hangs steady, guiding travelers across land and sea, as it has done for generations. The air grows cooler as night settles over the river valley, bringing a stillness so profound that every subtle sound of nature is amplified. The soft hoot of a distant owl in the canopy, the gentle leaping of a small river fish, the whisper of night breeze through the long grass. Somewhere further downstream, another camp's fire glimmers faintly through the trees. Traders from a different village, resting exactly as this one does, under the very same slow-turning sky. Wrapped in heavy woolen cloaks, the traders lie down on beds of dried straw inside the barge cabins, feeling the gentle, rhythmic rocking of the vessel on the tide. The river supports them, carrying them safely through the dark, silent landscape while they sleep. One by one, the fires along the bank burn down to soft embers. The voices fade, and only the water keeps speaking, low and constant, all through the night. Morning arrives slowly, without hurry, mist rising off the river in long, pale ribbons. The barges are loosed from their moorings, and the journey continues, mile by unhurried mile. A heron stands motionless at the water's edge as they pass, one leg drawn up beneath it, watching the barges with mild, patient indifference before returning its attention to the shallows. The banks widen further here, dotted with grazing cattle who barely lift their heads at the sound of passing oars. Everything about this stretch of river moves at the same unbothered pace, as if the whole valley had long ago agreed there was no reason to hurry. Farther south, the river widens, passing through gentle mountain passes where misty peaks touch the clouds. The water here is crystal clear, reflecting the towering stone cliffs and dense evergreen woods that line the gorge. The current slows here, deep and glassy, and for long stretches the only motion is the barge itself, sliding quietly beneath cliffs old enough to have watched 100 generations pass beneath them in just this way. Step by step, league by league, the amber moves closer to the Mediterranean world, leaving behind the chill of the Baltic for the warm, sunlit air of the south. Along one wide bend in the river, a small settlement comes into view. A handful of timber docks, a scattering of low houses, smoke rising thin and steady into the pale afternoon sky. The barges slow here, easing alongside the dock to trade a little salted fish for fresh bread and a few clay jars of honey. The most told shared the iolite for Kime said needed. The exchange is brief, familiar, the kind of small transaction repeated 1,000 times along this same stretch of water every season. Obarstreit, an old man, sits at the end of the dock, Liowand the Sittenderissen dock, with a simple reed flute. Said he plays nothing in particular, just a slow, wandering tune, just a luhunau that drifts out over the water and mixes easily with the sound of the current. Obarges. No one asks him to stop, and no one asks him to play louder. It simply continues, soft and unhurried, until the barges pull away again, and the tune fades gently behind them, absorbed back into the wide quiet of the valley. Further on, the river passes beneath long stretches of overhanging willow, their branches trailing in the current, combing slowly through the water without ever catching or pulling free. Here, the current barely moves at all. The barge seems almost to hang suspended between the sky above and its reflection below, the two so alike in color that it becomes hard to say where the water ends and the evening begins. Months pass as the amber travels steadily south, eventually leaving the river barges to cross the high, peaceful passes of the eastern Alps. Pack horses, step by steady step, climb the winding stone paths carved into the mountainsides. Their iron-shod hooves make a rhythmic, satisfying crunch on the gravel trails. The mountain air is thin, cold, and remarkably pure, carrying the scent of snow, granite, and alpine meadow wildflowers. High above, golden eagles soar on thermal updrafts, effortless and silent against the pale blue sky. The caravans move with extreme care, respecting the quiet majesty of the mountains. Midway through the climb, they pass a small herd of mountain goats resting on a sunlit ledge, unbothered by the travelers, watching with mild, patient curiosity before returning to their grazing. The trail narrows here, hugging the mountainside. Below, a valley stretches out in soft shades of green and grey, a thin silver thread of river winding through it, small and distant now, the very same river that carried them this far. Patches of snow linger in the shadowed hollows even now, in late autumn, untouched, brilliant white against the dark grey stone. The air passing over them carries a clean, sharp cold that settles pleasantly in the lungs with every slow breath. A thin waterfall spills somewhere out of sight, its sound reaching the trail long before its source ever comes into view. A steady, distant hush layered beneath the crunch of hooves on gravel. Wrist prying, unkesting the best, whoever spoke schessel the yittel backer. At a wayside shelter built from dry stacked stone, another caravan rests. Another caravan rests, traveling the opposite direction, Baltic. The two groups share water, a little food, and a few quiet words about the trail ahead. Then part again, each returning to their own steady rhythm. At night, they rest in stone shelters built by mountain guides, Josing said, Chiton Sans. Firelight warming the ancient granite walls as outside, the Alpine wind blows softly through the tall pines, Chuching Lunds bespeak harm to Toda Fazad. The horses are unburdened and fed, their breath rising in soft clouds in the cold air. One by one they settle, and the caravan drifts into a heavy, well-earned sleep beneath a ceiling of impossibly bright stars. Crossing the highest ridge of the pass, the landscape begins to change. Duims from Teen Last. Below them, stretching out into the warm haze of the morning light, lie the sun-drenched plains of northern Italy. The descent is gentle and relaxing. Tu Mervam, said the Fountain Last. As the elevation lowers, the cold mountain breeze gives way to the soft, warm air of the Mediterranean basin. The pines slowly give way to chestnut and oak, then to olive and cypress. The air itself seems to soften, carrying new scents now: warm stone, ripening grapes, dry summer grass. Terraced vineyards, olive groves with silver-green leaves and cypress trees line the winding stone roads leading toward Aquileia. Farmers pause in their fields to watch the caravan pass, exchanging a simple wave before returning to their quiet work beneath the wide southern sky. Aquileia is a great trading city of the Roman world. A peaceful gateway where the goods of the cold north meet the craftsmanship of the south. The city rises slowly on the horizon. Red tile roofs, pale stone walls, a harbor full of masts swaying gently in the warm coastal breeze. In the bustling yet orderly trade halls, sacks of raw amber are carefully unpacked onto linen-covered tables. Roman merchants, dressed in comfortable woolen tunics, inspect the amber pieces with practiced appreciation. They turn the raw stones in their hands, watching how the southern sunlight penetrates deep into the translucent golden centers. One merchant holds a larger piece to his eye like a small lantern, admiring the way the light pools inside it, warm and unhurried, the same light that once fell on a forest 40 million years gone. Payments are made in silver denarii, stamped with the quiet profile of the emperor. The trade is complete, yet the journey of the amber continues, into the artisan workshops where raw nature becomes timeless art. Earlier, on the final stretch of the descent, the caravan had crossed a swollen mountain stream by way of a simple wooden footbridge. The water beneath ran fast and white, but the crossing itself was slow, careful, one horse at a time, hooves finding each worn plank with practiced certainty. On the far bank, a shepherd rested with his flock in the shade of a lone chestnut tree. He lifted a hand in quiet greeting as the caravan passed, and the travelers returned the gesture without breaking their steady pace. The forest here had already begun its slow change, pine giving way to beech, then to oak, the undergrowth thickening with ferns that caught the last of the mountain light in soft, layered shades of green. By the time the land leveled out into rolling hills, the air itself felt different. warmer, thicker, carrying the distant mineral scent of the sea that awaited them at the coast. From Aquileia, the finest pieces of amber are carried along the paved stones of the Via Flaminia toward the quiet residential quarters of Rome and its coastal villas, far from the noise of the public forums. In secluded, shaded courtyards filled with potted laurels and quiet fountains, the master gem cutters work. Sunlight filters through linen awnings, casting a soft diffused light across stone benches. The artisan sits with a piece of Baltic amber held gently between his fingers. Using fine bronze drills, small bow saws and oil-soaked linen cloths dusted with powdered pumice, he begins to shape the stone. He works slowly, methodically, adapting his cut to the natural shape and clarity of each piece. An apprentice sits nearby, watching closely but saying nothing, learning the way the old man's hands seem to know the stone before the tools ever touch it. The pressure just light enough, the pace never rushed. Under his steady hands, the rough amber transforms, becoming smooth, spherical beads, delicate carved seals, and small, weightless perfume bottles. As the stone is polished, it releases a faint, pleasant fragrance, the subtle, sweet, resinous scent of ancient pine forests. When rubbed against silk or wool, the polished amber holds a quiet electrical warmth, attracting tiny feathers or threads of flax as if by magic. Roman scholars write of this stone with gentle wonder, calling it succinum, the juice of the trees. They marvel at how a stone born in the cold, misty seas of the far north can bring such warmth and beauty to the sunny courtyards of the south. The afternoon passes slowly. The only sounds, the soft scrape of tools, the trickle of the courtyard fountain, and somewhere beyond the walls, the faint, easy murmur of the city settling into evening. One finished bead is set aside from the rest, its surface polished to a soft, warm shine, a single tiny fleck of pine needle suspended forever. Near its center, light, the artisan turns it once in the fading light, before setting it gently into the velvet-lined chest with the others, lomas. A small, private satisfaction, the quiet pride of work done slowly and done well. The apprentice gathers the fallen amber dust from the bench into a small linen pouch. Even the smallest fragments are never wasted, destined for the finest inlay work on some future piece not yet begun. Night slowly falls over the Roman villa. The artisan cleans his tools, laying each bronze blade and linen cloth in its wooden box. The finished amber beads lie resting on dark velvet cloth inside an olive wood chest, glowing faintly in the dim light of a single clay oil lamp. Outside, the courtyard fountain trickles with a soft, steady cadence, water flowing continuously into a smooth marble basin. The cool evening breeze drifts through the open colonnades, carrying the scent of night-blooming jasmine and warm terracotta. Somewhere above the tiled rooftops, the same North Star that once guided the river barges now hangs quietly over Rome, unmoved by how far the amber has traveled to arrive here. The long journey of the amber is complete, from the cold, pine-scented beaches of the Baltic Sea, down the winding rivers, across the silent Alpine passes, to this tranquil room. The same steady rhythm that carried the amber across the world carries you tonight. Let your breathing settle into that same unhurried rhythm now. Slow, even, untroubled. There is nowhere else you need to be. Nothing left to carry. Only this quiet and the soft dark around you. Everything is silent now. The rivers flow quietly in the dark. The ancient forests rest under the stars. The sea lies calm along the distant shoreline. The fires have gone to embers. The roads are empty. The whole long road home lies still and settled, mile after mile, all the way back to the sea. Rest now, deep, peaceful and undisturbed. Let the dark hold you gently. Let the sound of the sea carry you further and further from thought. There is nothing to do now, nothing to solve. Only this slow tide of breath, in and out, patient as amber, patient as stone. There is only the dark now, soft and complete, and your own breath slower with every count. 10, drifting. 9, settling deeper. 8, the sound of the sea. Further away now. 7, 6, the last ember cooling to grey. 5, 4, the whole long road finally at rest. 3, 2, 1, sleep, sleep, sleep.